everyone, it's Annie from Stamp Anniething, and today we're going to be putting together our volume kit. So we want to first go ahead and check out that we have all of the pieces in our kit. If anything is missing, you just want to go ahead and shoot us an email and we will send out those replacement parts for you. Okay, so you should have some of the little notebook rings, a little bag that's going to contain your candles, your cheeks, and your flames, an icing piece, your sequins, your smaller icing piece, cake face big and cake face small, your frame for your shaker if you're going to make yours into a shaker, your acetate piece for your shaker as well, a T-shape piece of black. You should actually have two of them, a small one and a large one. Those are for your cake pieces. You're going to have, I believe it's 10, but let's go ahead and count them. You're going to have decorative papers. Some are going to be facing to the left, some are going to be facing to the right to create your album pages. So let's just, okay, so you should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 facing with the holes on this side, and then on the left side, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more, so 10 in total with the holes on the right side. You should have 5 of the chipboard page bases. You should have a chipboard big cake face, a chipboard small cake face, the 2 icing pieces once again in chipboard, and then you should have 3 frames. Okay, now the thing is, just a little disclaimer here, they are laser cut, so sometimes the chipboard still has residue on the edges. Well, this one doesn't, but sometimes you might have a little bit of residue still on the edges. So I always like to have baby wipes hand by. I like to work with my chipboard pieces first. That way, in case I do have any of the residue before I start working and transferring it to any of my paper. That's just how I prefer to work. You don't have to do it that way, but it just makes it easier in case so you don't have any transfer. So the first thing we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to go ahead and stack up what is going to make our icing shaker wall. So these 3 pieces, you're just going to simply put a little bit of glue around the whole edge, and you definitely want to make sure you don't leave any open spaces, because if you do, your shaker bits will escape. So you just want to take one piece and then layer it on top of the next piece, like so. And I always like to use my fingers just to make sure that my sides are flush. I'm not going to worry about the excess glue at this time because it's going to dry clear. And when I set that aside, it can go ahead and do its drying. Otherwise, if you're not using a clear drying glue and you get some that escapes, just get a little bit of a wet cloth and just wipe off your excess glue. So it's just going to be like so. And now you should have a 3-layered thick frame for your icing. And now you can see how I do have some residue on there from rubbing my finger, and that is normal with these chipboard pieces. So I'm just going to grab a baby wipe and just wipe off my hand, and I'm going to put that aside. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my icing piece and my acetate frame, and I'm going to go ahead and put my icing on top. I don't know if this catches on camera or not, but there's my acetate, because I'm gonna want this to dry. And since the acetate is slippery, you definitely want to let it dry a while before, you know, you use it again so it doesn't slip. Another thing to notice is our cardstock is textured on one side. That's the upside. And sometimes you'll be able to see the scorching of the laser on the backside, so you know what the backside is as well. That's just a little tip. And we're just going to go ahead and glue this together. That way, the glue on our acetate will not be slippery when we go back. I need a little bit of glue right there. There it goes. That's probably too much glue now. Ooh, just wipe that off a little bit. And I'm just going to go ahead and line this up to my acetate, like so. I'm going to just flip it over and tap it down with my nails or my ball of my finger, just to make sure. I don't want to like smooth it too much because then the glue will ooze out. And then I'm just going to also put this piece aside to dry. Now we're going to work with our other chipboard pieces. So we're going to use our two little faces and our icing. So I am going to grab the icing parts first. Now, they may look like they're asymmetrical, but they actually are not, the pieces. So you definitely want to put your paper on top to kind of do like a dry fit run to make sure you're marrying it up to the right side. So that's just a little bit of a tip as well. I try to make everything asymmetrical when I do it, but it doesn't always work out that way. And then you're just going to put your glue down here, and this is our cute little frosting part for our larger cake. I'm just going to marry that up as well. Again, I like to use my fingers, make sure everything's so that nothing's catching on the edges. And I like using liquid glue because it gives you that little bit of wiggle room. And then you're going to repeat the process with your smaller one. Again, just making sure you get the better. See here, this one, it's not off by a lot, but you can see some of the chipboard peeking through. And that's why you just want to use the side where no peek through. So they're almost asymmetrical, but not 100%. We'll say it's 99.9% asymmetrical. So that's why I like to always do that little bit of a dry fit to make sure I get the pieces to line up the way I really want them to. And now we have our other piece of icing. If you have a brayer, you can always go ahead and roll that on top as well, just to help smooth out the glue. It'll also make sure that you get a better adhesion if you do have a brayer, because it pushes the glue on the underside, especially with chipboard. You want that as well so that you know you're getting just a really, really good adhesion. Let's do it this way. Let's go ahead. We are going to glue our cake front to our cake chipboard again, because you want to dry fit it. You can see how it's not completely asymmetrical, but if you just flip it over, then it's a perfect fit. So you know which side to glue on. So we're going to go ahead and add our chocolate cake piece. I should have went and grabbed another glue bottle. So let's get this going here. And just make sure you really at least get glue up on these tips, because you don't want it to uplift later with them being such a fine point. So that is a very important place that you want to make sure. Oops, just got a glob of glue there. Wipe that up in a minute. Just make sure that those point parts really have some glue. And then you can go ahead and line up your cake. And then make sure that you do, if anywhere, you're gonna make sure that you're really adhering on these tips here of this cake piece, because it gets awfully thin and over time you don't want it to uplift. So again, if you have a brayer, this is where it would work out really well. But there is one of our cake pieces. And then you're gonna go ahead and we're gonna repeat it on our smaller one. Again, you wanna make sure you're lining up the correct side with the paper. Oops. Oh, there it was, that one. Okay. And we're going to be putting stuff on the back side here. So let's go ahead. And again, especially by tips is where it's going to be most important to get that glue so that there's no separation. And then you can go ahead and here together like so. And then what you're going to do now that you have the front of your cakes done, you can go ahead and flip them over because we're going to work on the back sides to make our little face. And that's when we're going to, flip him over, bring in your T-shapes and your cheeks. So the small T-shape is going to go with the small cake and the big one with the big one. Big cheeks with the big cheeks. Small cheeks with your small cheeks. And basically all you're going to do is you're going to want this T shape to cover the two eye holes and the mouth. And keeping your little pink area of the cheeks still exposed. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to just add some glue. Add some glue around the eyeball, down that center, around this eyeball, and then down by the mouth. And then I'm just going to, as carefully as I can, line it up, covering just those 3 spots and trying to keep my little cheeks exposed. And then I can go ahead and go around the cheeks. And again, the cardstock is textured on the right side, not on the back side. So you're going to put the textured part down. So that's what shows through on the front side of your cake. You're going to do that for both of your little cheeks. And then you can go ahead and flip it over and you can see, and it gives it a little bit of a 3-dimensional look as well since they're sunk in. I'm not going to worry about the glue. My glue does dry clear, but if it's something that bothers you, you can always just take a pin or a sharp object. I'm just going to use my tweezers really quick and just wipe off the glue. But it does dry clear, so I wouldn't mind so much. And then I can put that aside. And now we're going to do the same exact process, but now just obviously on a smaller scale with our little dude, our little cake. So we're going to make sure we get and hit just those 2 eyeballs and the mouth. So we're going to go around the eyeball in the center, around that other eyeball, and down around the mouth a little bit. And then we're going to go ahead and Ooh. This is why I like liquid glue. It gave me that little bit of wiggle room. And then the little cheek pieces. Definitely need my tweezers for these ones. Little circles, if I can even. Oop. There we go. And again, textured side is gonna go down. Grab my other one. Easier said than done sometimes. Go ahead and grab and put that one down. And now you have, oh, mine shifted. Hopefully yours didn't shift. Sorry about that. I will fix that with a marker or something on my end. But there you go for your little cake face. And now we're going to go ahead and grab which one is going to be our cover, which could be obviously any one that you want. And what you're going to need for that is, well, you know what we should probably do is plan out our pages, because we all do not have to have our pages in the same order as everyone else. So you're going to grab your chipboard pieces like this to start making your album. So again, you remember you have some that are the back side pages and front side pages. So I'm going to use the solid as my cover sheet because that's just how I designed it prior. So that's what I'm going to do. But then when I flip it over, I need to find a left and a right. So I want to coordinate my papers the way that I want to coordinate them. And I tried to make the designer ones that have more of a print, you know, a design on it to be on your right side, and then your dots and stripes to be on your left side. But all of the papers coordinate together beautifully regardless of what you're going to be using. But I'm just going to go ahead and have my little plan ahead of time of what colors I'm going to put where I want to put them. So I like my teal one with my presents. And then if I flip this over, sorry if I'm out of frame here. If I put the birthday candles here, I think the birthday candles might look cute with the red. Nope, you know what? I think I might like it better with the yellow. Okay, so I'm going to do that one there. Then I'm going to flip again. And then I'm going to put, let's see, maybe I will have my other birthday cakes there, and that one with the red. And then flip again. Have my little confettis with maybe the stripes. Nope, I like it better with the oranges. And then my back cover can be my stripes. Now again, you can put yours in any order that you want and in any elements of how you want to mix and match them. But we needed to do that just so that we at least know what one you want to have as your cover. And I just did the solid only because all of the other pieces were solid. I mean, obviously I could, you know, make it that it's got the cakes with a background. The only thing that shows on this cover page, though, however, when everything's covered, is this tab here. So that's why I don't want to waste a patterned paper on that. So I am going to go ahead now and take my first chipboard piece and my orange paper, and I'm going to glue this down to the chipboard. And again, it was just, I didn't want to waste one of my decorative papers that would not be seen. But some people don't like a lot of patterns, and that's fine. I normally don't like a lot of busy in my patterns either. But I just thought the inside of the album would be really cute with the decorative paper. And you're gonna have to move a little quickly here. Just make sure it all lines up. Beautiful. There we go. Again, brayer will really help to adhere. I have a brayer, but I used it on a gel press the other night, so it's still a little bit, has some sticky on there. So I didn't want to try and do it and then anything getting transferred to that piece of paper. Okay, so what we're gonna need next is this little baggie here. And what we're gonna need to do is we need to grab the green pieces. Now the green pieces, there are two sizes. There's a shorter green piece, and then there's a longer green piece. You need 2 long and 1 short for the candles. And yes, there are extras in there because again, they fly away very easily when we're crafting. But basically the longer candles are the ones on the outside. And the smaller one is the one that's going to be going in the center here. So now that I have that, I can go ahead and you just want to make sure you line that up. Let me clean this. We're just going to line them up with the top portion of the candle here. And I'm just gonna move it around to get it where I need it to be. And then repeat it with all 3 candles. So that shorter one is the one in the center. And your longer ones are the ones on the outside. And there you have the beginning of your little candles like that. Okay, also in your bag, you're gonna have the yellow flames and the chipboard flames. So you wanna grab 3 of those. So 3 of the chipboards and 3 of the yellows. And you know what? I am just going to dump my bag off to the side because these are the last of all the little pieces anyways. So if something flies away, I should be good because we used all those little pieces up already. All right. And now what you're going to just do is you're going to glue your yellow flame to your chipboard and then your chipboard to your orange pieces. So I'm just going to put some yellow glue on this yellow piece and then glue it onto a chipboard piece. I'm going to put it off to the side so I can stick my finger to put some pressure on that. Make sure it's glued down good. Let's try it this way this time. Putting it on the chipboard first. Again, just make sure you have your textured cardstock up when you're putting it on your piece here. Ooh, that came right off. There we go. Yep, I think it was easier to put the glue on my chipboard and then put my piece of paper on top of it. So I'm going to do that again for my 3rd one. Okay. And there we go. A little bit of glue. And then I always like with my tweezer, I kind of, oops, I had it backwards. Good thing I looked at that. Just kind of push the glue with my paper so I smear it and get it everywhere. Now we have our 3 little flames that can now get glued on to our base. of our cover sheet here. And I'm just squeezing the sides so that I know that like I have it lined up proper. Then I'm going to repeat that for my middle one. Push it down. Make sure I have it's lined up proper. And then finally my last one here. I love working with chipboard. It's probably one of my favorite materials to use when I do card making and stamping and putting things together, because I just love the dimension that it adds for everything. Okay, so the next thing that we have our cake pieces and we have our icing pieces. And these are going to kind of go together like a puzzle. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with our big cake on the bottom, and you're just going to make sure you line it up to the bottom as best as you can and get it as fitted to the bottom as you can. That way everything will line up. And again, the important parts to get really are going to be these peaks. Make sure your glue extends onto them because they will snag over time, and you most definitely are not going to want that to be anything that uplifts when you have this album. And I'm just making sure I'm squeezing the sides, and then I'm running my finger along the edge so I know that it is lined up perfectly flushed with the bottom and the sides. And then you'll be able to see where your icing for your big cake literally is just gonna slide in right like so. So then you can go ahead with this piece once this is all down. Again, make sure you get those points adhered as best as you can. And then go in with some more glue. And we kind of made this, the colors and the papers for this kit, not to be, you know, too babyish or too pastel-y. So it can really be just a primary birthday album for any gender and any age. Again, I'm just making sure you push it down so it gets and locks in with your bottom piece here. So it should all be flush, and you should, because you did the flush part on your bottom one, this should automatically be flushed correctly as well. And you should be able to feel it, that there's no like jump in your chipboard underneath. And then we're going to take our smaller piece, and he's just going to slide right in there beautifully. And again, getting those points. I know it's repetitive, but it's just a very important tip to have so that none of these uplift over time and catch on anything. If you have it in, you know, on a bookshelf or in a drawer, you don't want that to happen. Okay, and then we're gonna push him down, and then make sure you really push on those tips. And again, he also will be lined up on your side as well. And then your final part is going to be his icing. And then we can do our little shaker part at the end, because we're going to want to put the paper. Okay, oop. Push that down. And there is your cute little cover so far. And before we do, adding the more dimension there, we're going to go ahead and put this aside for just a moment so it can dry. And then that piece of paper that I had that I wanted to have as my inside, I'm going to put that aside as well so I know not to use that one. And then I'm going to grab my next piece of paper and my next chipboard. And I'm going to go ahead and adhere these two together. And now it's just a matter, we're going to add our pages, our paper to make the pages of our book. And we're going to do this for the fronts and the backs. And this goes pretty quickly because it's just adding your glue, putting on that paper, and lining it up. And then I'm just using my finger to spread from the center out to the edges, especially near those candles. Again, brayer is your best friend when doing projects with this, to make sure that the glue spreads evenly out to the edges. And then I'm going to flip this one over. And I'm going to have my back sheet, and I'm going to go ahead and put my back sheet on as well. And now we're just going to repeat this process on the back and then for the other pages of our book. And again, you might not be using the yellow star paper at this point like I am, because you might have decided to do it with a different paper, and that is fine, just as long as you have a front and a back complete. And all we're going to do now is we're going to do the exact same thing for all of our other pages, just like we did here. We're going to put that one aside now, and we're just going to repeat it and do it all again with our next paper, which again, yours might not be the candles, it might be something else. So we're just going to repeat the process for all of those inner pages. We are just doing it, we sped up the video here because it's just repetitiveness, so we wouldn't run out of time doing the video as a whole. So just make sure you do your front, and don't forget to do the back sides as well. Just applying your glue and then your backing sheet of your paper, and just repeat that for all of those inner pages of that mini album, so that you can just go ahead and get those all taken care of. And then we're just going to repeat it over and over until we get it all done. So just go ahead and keep repeating until you get all of those inner pages complete. Okay, so now my pages are done, so I'm going to go back to my cover one to put on that back sheet. But yeah, we're really excited to come to the event and see what all the buzz was about, because we heard such great things about it. Super, super excited. I live down in Florida, so we will be driving up. So probably take us about, I don't know, I guess 2 days to drive. I don't know. That's my husband's job, is figuring out the route and how long we should be in a car per day, because we will be bringing my son with us. How long he'll be able to stand, you know, being in a car without, you know, pit stops every 3 hours. But we are really looking forward to being a part of that and being a part of all of the volume shows this year. And I hope you like what we will be able to bring for you guys. And we're always open to suggestions. You can always email us. We always welcome questions and feedback. So you can always just drop us a line. So now we are ready to go ahead and build up our little shaker part of our card. So remember, we did this in the beginning. This piece is going to get glued on right on the top like that. So we're going to go ahead now and just put, and again, you want to make sure the glue doesn't have any gaps in it at all, because then your sequins will escape, or your shaker bits or whatever when you're making shakers. And again, I like using chipboard for shakers like we're doing here, as opposed to foam tape. Well, first of all, there's no way, I don't think you would have to be the foam tape queen to get around curves like that. Foam tape doesn't bother me if I'm doing a square, but like on circles and things of that nature with curves, it's a hot mess in my opinion, at least the way I do them. So I just think using chipboard, it's all going to match up and be perfectly aligned. Just makes it a lot easier. Okay, and then we have there, I have some glue oozing out. Don't really care so much about the outside, but I am going to clean up this little piece that's on the inside so nothing gets stuck to it. Okay, and then we have our little sequins here, and I'm just going to put a few in there. I don't feel like I need to put a ton in there, and it is a small space to begin with, but I'm just going to put a little. And if you happen to have other embellishments in your home that you think would work with this, by all means, add that in there too. You can make it look like sprinkles. If you have even any other sequins that are another color, you can go ahead and mix those in. There's just so much you can do to make it look like sprinkles on a birthday cake. So I'm just going to put that many in mine. And then I'm going to take my acetate sheet piece, and I'm actually going to put the glue on my chipboard, not on the back again, because the acetate is so slippery. I like to put it on the chipboard part instead. And we're going to go ahead and put that right along the edges. Again, just make sure that you hit all the areas. Now what I am going to do is I am going to use my finger just to make it a little bit flatter, so I don't have like that glob right there, because then that's going to get pushed into the acetate, and then I have to wait longer for it to dry so that a sequin doesn't catch on it. And you know, ideally I don't like to touch glue. I have sensory issues with stuff like that sometimes. But when you're crafting, sometimes you got to get messy. Well, a lot of times you got to get messy when you're crafting. Okay, and we're just going to go ahead and put the lid on our little guy here. And we're just running my finger. And now we have our little shaker. And then we can go back to our pages, figure out if we remember. I remember I wanted my this to be my back cover, but now it doesn't really matter. You can choose whichever one, whichever order you want. I'm just going to go ahead and put them together like so. And then you have your 3 little rings. Some of them are really hard to open, and they're tiny. You can always, if these are too small for you, especially if you like to put a lot of content in your albums to make it rise, you can just buy a larger diameter ring. I think they come in basically, you know, 1/2 inch size, 1/4 inch, 1 inch, 1.5, 2 inch. It's whatever you're going to need for your book. And I'm just going to go ahead and clip them shut. So there's my 3rd one here. Okay, so there is my album and my little shaker. And I can go ahead, there's our cover. Our first page is there, flipping through. See, again, like this I wanted at the end, so I didn't match that to be with this page originally. I think I did the turquoise one to be with this one originally. But see, all the paper just coordinates beautifully together, regardless of what order you end up putting in your album. But that is our completed album. And then you can go ahead and embellish the inside however you want. If you have dies that are rectangles and squares to make little pocket cards, you can go ahead there. You can staple ribbon to come shooting out the sides. I mean, you can do anything you want with the inside of your album. It's really, really easy to go ahead and do that. And thank you so much for being with me and having fun crafting with you.